is Damon Brown. Welcome. This is Damon Brown. This is a Bring Your Worth TV show. What show is it? You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. Sorry, we're having some issues with some digital issues. Just give it a second. There we go. It looks like Twitch isn't working at this moment. We're going to go and work with other platforms. Hey, love you out there. Thank you for the patience. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. I come to you Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free. The main channel on YouTube at BringYourWorth.tv, as well as on Twitch as at Twitch TV / Brown Damon, as well as on other platforms, which I will share below. Super excited to come through and hang out with y'all today. You can get my last book or the latest book, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. My 27th book. It's actually a compilation of some of my best business books. Some of y'all made them bestsellers. Thank you. It's actually available now at all the links below. You can also listen to the audiobook for free here at BringYourWorth.tv. After we finish hanging out, go and check out the audiobook. It's about 8 hours long, has some of my best work in there, including the Ultimate Bite-sized Entrepreneur, the Bring Your Worth, as well as my personal favorite, Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. I know some of y'all are traveling overseas, including some of y'all who I coach. And so just to make it a little bit easier for y'all, because you don't always have audiobooks available when you're on the road. So this is my gift to you. You can catch it on Twitch most of the time. I think we're having some errors right now. I'll try it again for sure. But you can go ahead and check us out over on Twitch, which is different and exciting. If you know my history, I actually began my career as a video game journalist. So coming to Twitch TV, I remember when it was called Justin TV. Shout out to the original Justin back when I lived in San Francisco. So it's kind of coming back to the roots. You can catch me on Twitch at the same time with the live shows, at least. And you can also catch the collection on Spotify, which is pretty cool. As you see the Twitch logo pop on there. There we go. You can catch me on Spotify. So I have a lot of the classic episodes on there that's free on there as well. You also be supporting the community over on Spotify as they continue to grow. If you missed it, I have a newsletter at joindamon.me. You can actually join right now for free. I'll throw up the link a little bit later on in the show. You also see it in the show notes right now. In the last month or two, I've been talking a lot about the IIJ, which is the Institute for Independent Journalists. I've been an independent journalist for umpteen years. We'll leave that alone. And I wish IIJ was around when I first started my career. Let's just say last century when I started my career. And what's fascinating and wonderful is that I'm very cool with the founder, Catherine Lewis. I appreciate you, appreciate the work that she's doing. So I've been cool with her and friends with her for many years. She's come up the ranks as an independent journalist, doing amazing work, and has struck out on her own and created this organization about 3 or 4 years ago. I've spoken at their conference before, and they do a wonderful show. And they came to me, they were like, hey, I think your audience might rock with our new conference. We have some revamp things. They're doing a lot of stuff online as well as having some in-person stuff. I was like, absolutely. So here's my support for them. They actually gave me a discount code exclusively for y'all. Discount code is my name. So if you go over there and sign up right now, you can still get in. I think the early bird is done because we're live right now on January 15th, 2025. But I still think that they have quite a few tickets available, or at least you can get in there. I don't know if there's a lot of tickets available. Let me stop lying. But but I think you can definitely get in there and still use the discount code to get that going. Gives you a nice discount. And it's already really affordable. I love the work that you're doing as far as talking to the various types of freelancers that are out there. I was a different type of freelancer than, say, the traditional freelancer, and you can take that however however you like. And so there's a wonderful opportunity to get the support that you need, particularly if you're coming at it. If you're watching the show, you're probably a non-traditional entrepreneur. In case you missed it, it's been a long time. I should have left you. But the last live show that I actually had, like in person, was around the holidays. So I want to say about a month and a half ago. But over the holidays, when a lot of us were taking a break, including myself, spent a lot of time with my kids and got some good rest and everything. I'm a big proponent of rest. Um, we also ran a bunch of master classes as part of the Bring Your Worth Beginners Guides. So a master class based on the episodes last year on emotional intelligence. That's kind of like a big, bulky one that went several hours long. Another one about increasing your profit. There's another one about being more productive. They definitely have the energy of these live shows. Some of them are based on live shows, like the one you're watching right now, and they're kind of all getting the best nuggets from them. I know there's a lot of live shows I end up doing. I do one almost every Wednesday. So you imagine last year I probably had like 40 or so live shows. This takes the best out of all of them and puts them into categories. Some of you have watched it. I really appreciate it. But it's kind of like a nice little master class to ease into the year. I don't know about you, but again, it's January 15th. I feel like I'm still I'm still in second gear. I'm still trying to get into 2025. I feel like my brain and my soul is still back in 2024. Still trying to play catch up. Of course, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. So we're all kind of slowly waking up to everything that's happening. Hopefully we will soon, including myself. I've talked about it quite a bit in the newsletter at joindamon.me. Anyway, this is a good kind of refresher of all the stuff we talked about last year, and it's categorized in a way to make it a lot easier. Also, it's part of the Beginner's Guide series. So there's Beginner's Guide to Passive Income. There's Beginner's Guide to Brene Brown. All of them are in this playlist. You just hit play and go. If there's one that particularly piques your interest, you just go to the playlist. I want to say it's about two dozen beginner's guides. So go for it. Have fun. I developed it just for y'all. That's why I put the work in because I want to make sure you guys had some good stuff to do while I was taking a nice little break, and hopefully you got a chance to rest a little bit too. All right, today, 3 ways to survive the TikTok ban. If you're not familiar with it, we're going to talk briefly about TikTok, briefly about the ban that's set to occur this weekend. This got confirmed in the news today, as well as what you can do about it. So let's get into the meat of it. um, TikTok is a platform that allows you to do shorts. So if you follow me or subscribe to this channel on YouTube at bringyourworth.tv, then you've already seen a lot of my shorts. If you're on Instagram, they're called Reels. You know, they're very similar, even though they have different names. The basic idea is it's a piece of vertical content, as in the same way you hold your phone. My phone is busy right now. I'd hold it for you. So, like you holding a phone, that's why you watch how you watch the videos. There's no horizontal. So if it's a short or a TikTok or a reel, it's always vertical, and they're usually less than a minute. YouTube and TikTok and other platforms have made them a little bit longer, but the traditional ones are fairly short. The traditional ones are under a minute. And so you can go ahead and go to bringyourworth.tv if you're watching on there, and you'll see hundreds of shorts that I've done. So it's different than so-called long-form content. Us doing the video right now and having this conversation live is recorded for prosperity, so you can watch it later if you're busy. This is considered long form because it's longer than a few minutes. Again, with the intro, we're already 8 minutes in. This would be way longer than what you get with a short. TikTok is a platform that came about, excuse me, TikTok is a platform that came about, I want to say about 6, 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, closer to 10 years ago, originally from China. So that's why I'm kind of vague on the beginnings of it. But I want to say it started in China about a decade ago, and it was for lip syncing. So I'm a big karaoke guy, and so at least I used to be. I'm not sure if I have the voice that I had before, and even back then my voice wasn't great. But it allowed you to do karaoke and or lip sync, which I know Japan really well. If you know Eastern Asia, karaoke, that's where it started. Karaoke is literally a Japanese term. It started as that, and then it became what we know today as TikTok. The challenge is that here in the United States, I'm based here in Las Vegas, and our relationship with China, and I know some folks that are Chinese or from China, this relationship has been super, super complicated, very political, a lot of talking stuff from both sides, and a lot of flip-flopping as far as what the relationship was going to be. In that competition, some of the leaders here in America said, wait, TikTok is like one of the number one mobile apps in the world, including here in the United States. Do we really need, if we have issues with the Chinese government, do we need them to collect so much data? And TikTok is very much focused, or at least very popular within the tweens, the teens, and the very young adults, like in their 20s. Do we want to have that much exposure? So more from a standpoint of so-called national security. That came up around 2020. You might have read about it when I talked about it in my book, Build From Now, which came out in 2021. All that kind of snowballed into right now, where, excuse me, it came up to the higher courts, the Supreme Court here in the United States, and the back and forth with that. It went that high, and they're basically saying, look, ByteDance is the parent company of TikTok. Look, ByteDance, you don't have to destroy TikTok and ban it, whatever, but you can't own it anymore because you're a Chinese-based company. And they're like, well, that's not fair. And America's like, well, that's what we decided to do. So as of this week, Sunday, January 19th, 2025, TikTok officially has a ban on its heads. That doesn't mean that's not going to be available to y'all in Canada, y'all in Mexico, my many overseas viewers over in like Germany or parts of Africa. It's going to be available everywhere else, pretty much in the world, that it was available before. But users in the United States will not be able to download the app anymore, as well as some other stipulations, right? How is that going to affect your business? I know people that make a living on TikTok. That's how they get their customers. They get, some passive income, if you want to call it passive income, from different shorts and reels and other things that they do that they end up doing originally for TikTok or, transferring over to TikTok. So we're going to talk about different dynamics of that. We're going to talk about the news behind it, what's going to happen with TikTok, and the 3 ways that your business can survive and thrive in that environment. Nothing like tea for the soul. All right. So my friends over at Inc. Magazine, specifically Chris Morris, love your work that you're doing over there, talked about who might buy TikTok. There are 5 potential buyers if the Supreme Court rules against it. This column came out a couple days ago. Again, shout out to Chris for the article. There's still a chance that TikTok might be quote unquote saved. What's really clear about it though is that chances are TikTok is either going to be not available in the United States, or if it isn't available in the United States, it's going to be purchased by a quote unquote American based company. On this short list of rumored companies is Microsoft, which would be a big deal. They're already kind of a conglomerate. They obviously, you guys probably know the history starts with Microsoft, but they also own Activision. They also own a lot of other major companies. I believe they own LinkedIn at this point. I think they purchased LinkedIn. So there's a lot going on there. This would be another kind of pillar. And who knows what might happen. They bought Skype and the results weren't that great. Skype used to be the go-to, and then it kind of fell apart, frankly, when Microsoft bought it, you know, 12, 13 years ago. And suddenly, I don't know anyone who's using it. Shout out to Zoom. Everyone's on Zoom or on Google Teams or Google Meetings, Google Meet, I think it's called. So Microsoft's one of them. Elon Musk is one of them. Which, if you know the history of my work, I've been following Elon Musk's journey as well as his work for several years, including for Inc. Magazine, back when I had a regular column for them. And there's a lot of challenges with that because Elon Musk also, about a year and a half ago, bought Twitter, which is now known as X. And I don't know anyone in my circle or any of y'all that I've talked to, and I've sent some surveys out and talked to a lot of y'all, even a lot of y'all that I coach, who's actually happy with how Twitter, now X, is based right now. So that's kind of the key part of the discussion today, is that even if TikTok is available, say next Monday, this coming Monday, the 20th, which would be the day after its period of time of death row, even if it survives that, if it ends up getting acquired by one of the folks, individuals, in this case would be Elon Musk, or companies, in this case would be Microsoft, is able to purchase them, there's no guarantee it's going to be the same TikTok. So resharing music, having the deals with the music companies, which is a whole big thing. I'm about to share a video that talks about that. Being able to connect with other people, having access to the same people, what the algorithm looks like. I know there's one company in the running that just wants to buy the app but doesn't want to get the algorithm, which is kind of based on the algorithm because they give you things based on what you're into, et cetera, et cetera. Those things kind of play into it, and that's kind of the rough part of it. Oh, and I just realized that my it was such a long comment that I think the the link actually cut. Man, technology is fighting today. Let me go and get a good link in for you guys. There we go. I'll go ahead and throw it back up. There we go. Boom. So that's actually the link to it. Sorry, extremely long links. Shout out to Ink Magazine. The links though are rough. So that link should fit in there. You can go and click on there and also be in the information below. That breaks down the 5 potential people that can buy it. And this video I just discovered the other day. Shout out to On Cue. I think I just subscribed to y'all. Shout out to y'all. I love the video where it talks about what will happen to music after TikTok's demise. This really fit into what we're getting at today with the 3 ways. If you're just tuning in, the 3 ways that you can survive the TikTok ban is because there's whole industries that have been propped up, no exaggeration, by TikTok. One of them is the music industry. I know some of y'all that are watching are creatives in the music industry. If you think about some of the most popular acts, and I'm talking about mainstream acts, I'm not even talking about indies like you and I, mainstream acts. You think of Charlie XCX. Um, if you think about Tommy Richmond, about 2 years ago, not so much now, but 2 years ago, with his song "$1 Million Baby." If you never heard of the song, you actually have heard the song already. That was TikTok. Everyone was using it, not me, but everyone was using it. Suddenly, that's going to be gone. Even if it's acquired by another company, that cash cow is not going to be the same. And TikTok had those relationships that they built over that 10 plus years with the music companies. Because remember, it started as a music company. It started with lip syncing and or karaoke. So they already had a relationship with Universal and with, Warner Brothers or whatever major labels they happen to be. Seagrams, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get nerdy about it. They talk about this in the video. If they don't have those relationships, then you might not be able to do your little viral dance. You might not be able to, I don't have a huge following on TikTok, but when I use, I'm a big fan of the Southern group Outkast. When I use one of Outkast's classic rap songs, instrumental of it, or the instrumental break, when I'm talking about something about passive income, or I'm talking about something related to emotional intelligence, or I'm talking about something related to, the work that I do that to help you get to the next level as a solopreneur, maybe I won't be able to use those tracks anymore. So that's going to have a direct impact, not just on the individuals who make a living on this, and that becomes nice passive income for them and their record labels, but also for the folks like myself, like yourself, who actually might be using that stuff as background music, and suddenly you can't. It's deep stuff and it gets really heavy quickly. So I implore you to go and watch this video as well. Again, it's not from me, it's from a station I just heard about called On Cue. I think it's like a 10-minute, 15-minute video. Absolutely worth your time. So let's get into it. So what are the excuse me, what are the 3 ways you can survive this TikTok ban? You can survive this TikTok ban by getting more agnostic with your platforms. Sometimes we get so wedded to a particular way of doing things. It's like I connect with my audience on YouTube, and that's all I do. That's my thing. I only use LinkedIn. The other platforms, I don't use them. I just do TikTok, and people DM me on there, so just reach out on TikTok. The danger with that is what's occurring right now. I talked about at my newsletter today at joindamon.me. You can subscribe for free. Where in 2007, folks were encouraging me to get on an app that was named after a bird and reach out to people. A few years ago, I was paid really well to go into the metaverse and talk about entrepreneurship. Twitter is now in a whole different space. The metaverse isn't much of a conversation anymore. No shots at Meta, but it's not there yet. Maybe it'll be there in the future. So if you end up becoming overly dependent on certain platforms, then that means when those platforms change, and they will change, then you might not be ready to take that audience with you. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the show. But as far as owning your audience and working with your audience, being able to take your audience wherever you are going versus you being dependent on a third party for it. One of the best ways you can do this is always connecting on a variety of platforms. It doesn't have to be every platform. You don't need to be on, I'm not even going to name all of them. I would run out of breath. You don't have to be on 10 platforms at the same time. That's not required. But I think what's helpful is being on a few and even having your own platform and building from there, which I think is a really important part of the discussion. If you're going to be getting into different platforms, then I think you need to kind of take a step back and figure out what exactly you want to get out of the platform. And if your audience is really there in that way, and chances are your audience is going to be in a few different areas. And luckily, there's some frameworks you can work with to help you get there. I would highly recommend watching this video that I did. It's one of those masterclass videos. It's only a couple hours long or so, but it's a lot of information in there. Business success without social media. I talk about how several years ago, I actually took a break from social media. And that quarter, business quarter that I took a break, my revenue and profit went up. I think it doubled. Again, I talk about it in the video, but I believe it doubled. And what occurred was that I found all these different ways to connect with my audience. At that time, I was really building up my coaching practice. I had just started coaching, and I think it was about 7, 8 years ago. And I was going through what I was going through, and it actually got me to get on the phone. It got me to beef up my newsletter. It got me to text message people. It got me to actually, and I was living in the Midwest at the time, so it was cold. I remember it was winter time. It was probably about this time that year in January going into February. I remember like meeting people at coffee houses in the Midwest. It was freezing, hanging out with them, da da da. And it was this beautiful experience of building with them and being able to do a lot more, you know? And I agree. Thank you, Carlos. I agree. The space is ready for new platforms. The thing is that there's always going to be that cycle. When people were talking in 2007, they assumed that Twitter would always be the same. When I got hired to come into the metaverse back in 2022, 2021 or so, then people assumed that everyone's going to be working in the metaverse. And it's like, that's not how it works at all. There's a natural cycle of things. And with social media, it's important that you go ahead and build up whatever your energy is outside of social media. That's really important too. I get deep into how I did it. I get deeper into the profit aspect of it and how you can make a living outside of social media and how I had some of my biggest successes and best years when I actually backed off of social media. Even to this day, you'll catch me on maybe 2 social media platforms, three max. That's enough. I don't have to be everywhere at once. And that allows me to really concentrate on things like having this show regularly. If you're going to be getting into managing your social media or being more agnostic with it, one of the best things you can do is get a tool called Meet Edgar. Shout out to Laura, one of my favorite entrepreneurs, especially as far as in being a female entrepreneur. She's killing it out there. I'm so proud of your work over there. I'm going to try to add this to the stage. There we go. This is Meet Edgar. It works really, really simply. And let me see if I can get a calendar here. I don't think they have a calendar available for the public, but I'll show this right here. So it works like this. You go ahead and you say what platforms you're interested in. It could be Facebook, Instagram, and let's say Twitter. And Meet Edgar is like, great. You log in, you give Meet Edgar access to those. Then let's say you have a post saying, hey, I'm going to be live on Wednesday talking about 3 ways for your business to survive on Twitter or without TikTok, all the T's, without TikTok. Instead of putting it directly into, say, Twitter X, putting it directly into Instagram, or putting it directly into Facebook, you put into Meet Edgar. And then it will come up with the best time to schedule that to go out. So that's one instance of it. The second instance is that you do the same thing, but with evergreen content. This is where the real power comes in. So this, you're currently hanging out with me on the 406th episode of Bring Your Worth TV. Very proud of it. Thank you for the journey. That means there's 405 other episodes. Episodes I probably forgot about. It's been going on 4.5 years. I put descriptions and links and images for those 405 previous episodes into Meet Edgar. And then it'll do the scramble thing and say, you know what? You seem to get the most engagement on Twitter when you post something about an old episode around 4 a.m. on Wednesdays. So Damon, we got you. Every Wednesday at 4 a.m. As long as it works and we get the engagement, we're going to make sure that we get a random old episode and put it up there then. Set it and forget it. Shout out to the 1980s infomercials. But you set it and you forget it. Done. This is beautiful because for the 2 or 3 platforms that I'm actually on, that I actually am engaging in, I'm able to have this content go out and I'm not wedded or tied, number one, to just one platform. And number two, I don't have to be on there the whole time. My messages get out and I can go on there a few times a week and engage, hang out, whatever. You can adjust it to whatever you're doing. You're not wedded to that particular platform. So with TikTok going away, at least as far as every indication, hence me having the show this week, it's not going to affect my business like that, or as much as it could have if I was just focused on TikTok. Meet Edgar is a good thing to have in your arsenal. I highly recommend it. Another good one is Opus Pro. Opus Pro is a little bit different, and I'll go ahead and set that up for you guys as well. Yeah, my technology is running a little slow today. There we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. Cool. And so Opus Pro, I've been using it for a little while now. What it does is, this can give you a simple version of it. There you go. Sorry for the bouncy graphics, but this is how they design their website. And so you can have a conversation like we're having right now. If you have a podcast, if you have a long interview series, that kind of setup, even if you have something that's a little bit more curated, you can take those video clips or that video and put the whole thing into Opus Clips. And then using their technology, part of it is AI, part of it is other things, they'll go ahead and split it up into usable clips. Again, this is great for 2 reasons. Number one, you don't have to sit there and clip it by hand. And if you've been doing shorts or long form content, going into shorts as long as I have, you remember the days where even just a few years ago, talking like it was ages ago, just a few years ago, even just 2 years ago before Opus Clip came around, then you'd have to go by hand. You have to listen to what they're saying, put subtitles in there, which you can see automatically happen with Opus Clip. Put subtitles in there, figure out what spaces you want to do, change the formatting. You see that they automatically split it up when 2 people are talking. It's just a lot. And so you're able to do that. So I'm able to take something like the conversation we're having today, which will probably be about an hour, and then use something like this, and it'll find 2-3 minute nuggets, sometimes 30-second nuggets that work really well. The second part of this, which you'll see the pattern here, is that it's completely agnostic. So for YouTube, for Instagram, for any of those, particularly when you're doing that kind of short content, if you're familiar with it at all, they all have their built-in editors, which is cool. I mean, it's cute. I prefer to use my own editor even before Opus Clip came around. Shout out to Adobe and InShot and all those guys I've talked about in the past. You can see the earlier episodes where I talk about the best software for podcasting. But with that in mind, if you go and design your particular short or video in the app that YouTube has, you're kind of designing it for YouTube. If you use the tools that TikTok has, I believe it's CapCut, that has its branding and has its limitations. If you use Instagram and you design it in there, this is a way to design it, again, away from the platform. So when I have something that I get from Opus Clip, I can share it on LinkedIn, I can share it. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I can share it on there, et cetera, et cetera. So it allows you, again, to be agnostic and not have to worry about things. The links for all the stuff that I'm talking about are below, and it gives you the opportunity to go ahead and move from there. You know, thank you. Another option is for people is Capwing, which I've heard of but never used before, mainly because it makes it very easy to edit the captions, editing captions via time, which is super helpful. A bit more deep dive in Opus. Agreed. Agreed. So Opus will give you the basics of the captions. Captions get wrong, you can get in there, get a little bit dirty, but as Carlos talks about, thank you. He also recommends a platform called Capwing. I'm sure you can do a quick Google search and find out more about that. Thank you, Carlos. So again, as Carlos was talking about, like there's lots of ways to do this without just being focused on one particular platform. The last recommendation when it comes to that is one called StreamYard. In a meta way, I'm actually using it right now. And so StreamYard allows you to stream to multiple platforms. So as we speak, as we're hanging out, I'm streaming to YouTube at bringyourworth.tv. I'm streaming to LinkedIn. Shout out to y'all over at LinkedIn. And then it's a little buggy right now, but I'm also streaming to Twitch, twitch.tv/Brown Damon. All the links are below if you can check down and subscribe on those respective platforms. StreamYard allows you to go ahead and do that in multiple platforms at the same time. This was a struggle when I first started my show about 4 years ago because I know I wanted to go live and it will give me a chance to connect with y'all. I'm a big Q&A guy. If you see me, I do a lot of public speaking. So if you see me in person, whatever, I'm really big on the Q&As. It's kind of like an element of that coaching element part of me. And it enables me to do that. I struggle because I didn't know a good way for me to be live on multiple platforms. So I partnered with Costco, the big box store, when I did a launch for Build From Now back in January of 2021, so 4 years ago now. But I can only be on Instagram. I didn't know how to do it elsewhere. A lot of y'all came through. It was beautiful. It's actually recorded at bringyourworth.tv if you want to watch the whole episode of that. But having an opportunity to do that on multiple platforms is a gift. This allows you to do that, including it on TikTok. So if TikTok survives, or it continues to be in its form, then it's a good opportunity for you. There's a link right there. It's a referral link. I think you get like a bonus if you do it through me. Go and check it out, see what's happening. If you want to get into the streaming, there's a lot of opportunities there. The pattern that you see in all this is that you want to get agnostic with your platforms. Agnostic means not being dedicated to one particular belief or faith. So don't just say, oh, I'm a TikToker. Oh, I'm a YouTuber. Oh, I'm only on LinkedIn. Oh, no, only tweet. I mean, that might be your main emphasis. Obviously, my emphasis is on having the show. And that means in some ways I'm a YouTuber. But that's why you see me on Twitch. That's why you see me on LinkedIn. That's been a conscious decision the whole time. Because YouTube is just part of the many infrastructures that we have available, particularly nowadays. Things like StreamYard allow us to quickly connect to other platforms and build from now and allow us to show up in certain ways. So how are you becoming more agnostic? Is this TikTok ban that's coming up this weekend, is that making you really think about how you're too or overly invested in particular platforms? And then what are you doing now to adjust to it? Let me know in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, I'd love to go ahead and hear your take on it. I'm entrepreneur coach Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Earth TV. Come to you Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free and get the complete Bring Your Earth collection everywhere books are sold, and listen to it right now for free at bringyourworth.tv. Just use the link below. Today we're talking about how you can survive TikTok ban. One of the things you can do is own your relationship with your audience. If you own the relationship with your audience, you don't have to worry about when the currents change or when the tech weather changes or when another mogul or organization decides to buy your favorite platform. One of the challenges that we have as creators, particularly independent creators, which is my focus, I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. One of the challenges that we have is that we don't necessarily have the reach of a penguin when it comes to book publishing, the reach of a MTV Viacom when it comes to music. We don't have the reach of a Clear Channel when it comes to radio. I can go down the list. You know where the conglomerates are. Amazon when it comes to selling and shipping. So we have to kind of create partnerships in some way. In those partnerships, though, often these organizations are leveraging our well cultivated audience to build up their bottom line, to build up their shareholder price, to build up their power. And I don't mean this in like an evil way. Corporations have a lot of issues, but this isn't a street or you know what I'm trying to say, an argument. Street, I don't know what a street is, but a screet. That's what I was trying to say, which somehow sounds dirty, but I'm not trying to be dirty. But it's isn't a screed. Screet is with a D. Tell you, Wednesday feels like Friday this week, man. It's not a screed against corporations. They're not great, but that's not my point. My point is that we are the ones that actually provide the power to these organizations. If there weren't as many independent creators and producers using Amazon, the Amazon wouldn't have any power. If there weren't as many people connecting on Facebook, now known as Meta, as there are now, then Meta wouldn't have as much power. If there weren't as many independent music artists, a lot of y'all that I coach who didn't have music on Spotify, where would Spotify's power come from? The trade-off that we have with that access to a so-called million or billions of people, that audience, the trade-off we often make is that we lose access, direct access to that audience, and we trade off access to them, quote unquote, for including this middleman or middlewoman, however you want to phrase it. Now, if the middle person is involved, then we're going to get less and less information about the people that we're serving. If Meta or Facebook, let's call it Facebook, if Facebook said, yeah, I think we're going to charge you a little bit more money to access those 10,000 fans that you have. So you can access 1,000. We'll pick the 1,000. You can access 1,000. But if you give us $1, you can access 5,000. If you give us $10, you can access all of them. That literally happened when I was promoting my first major book 15 years ago. And I was like, oh, they can do that? And I was like, of course they can do that. If I say no, then even though I built this group of 10,000 people, I don't know where their addresses are, proverbially or otherwise. I don't know their email addresses. I don't know their home addresses. I don't know their phone numbers. I don't know how to reach them. What happens when my next book comes out? I got to pay the middleman now. That's what happens when you don't own your audience. I'm sympathetic if you're in that situation with TikTok, because again, I'm speaking from experience. This isn't just this isn't theory. Like I'm talking 2008, 2009, 2010, and seeing some of that writing on the wall and being like, oh, I better go ahead and figure out how to connect with my audience directly. You see, the real power in these bigger organizations, and today we focus on social media platforms, is that they have the information about the people that you've been trying to reach and that you have already reached. It's not just your potential customers, but also the people that are already your customers. When I got onto YouTube, when I got more focused on LinkedIn over the last few years, so forth, there's so many people that I ran into that said, hey, I was familiar with your work, but now that you're on this platform, now I'm going to follow you. Now I'm going to buy your books. So certain people that are only going to be dedicated to that particular platform. These platforms know that. So it's only there's people that are only loyal to TikTok, at least for right now, or only loyal to TikTok. Because of that, they're able to leverage that and say, all right, well, maybe you can make some money on this after you get 10,000 subscribers, but please keep creating content because that's what keeps things going. Yes, we can go and get your book in front of your 1,000,000 subscribers. I don't have 1,000,000, but you hear what I'm saying. We can get it in front of 1,000,000 subscribers. But if you decide to leave the platform, you're not going to have information about the subscribers. Some of my books that I've done have been bestsellers. In some cases, those bestsellers and people learning about the book, be connecting to people who have bought the book, happened because of social media. But once I left that social media platform, or once that social media platform decided to say, hey, we're going to go under other ownership and we don't like the content you're doing, so we're not going to promote it as much. They call it shadow banning. We're going to go and put that content away. I've written about some pretty controversial concepts. Once that happens, once I had the next book out, I wasn't able to access the audience that bought the original book that made it a bestseller. That's part of the game. Own your relationship with your audience. Ways you can do that is through platforms that you actually own. One of the main platforms of this show is YouTube, but I own all the content. I have hard drives with all the videos that I've done for y'all over the years. And then also, you might be watching this on LinkedIn. You may be watching on Twitch. You might be watching on Amazon Live. You might be watching it through somebody else on Facebook. You might be watching it somewhere else. So that being agnostic, which was the previous point, allows you to own your audience a little bit more. Because then you can catch me somewhere else. Personally, the TikTok ban's not going to affect me that much. I get some followers on TikTok. I got some hits over there. But that's not the only place I was concentrating. So it allows me to do that, and people are still able to stay connected to me. Another way you can do that is finding platforms that have no middleman. And we're going to get into that in a second. But that relationship with your audience is so key to the point of it. Fantastic book that I'd recommend if you want to understand this more is The Power of Holiness by Nilofer Merchant. Shout out to Nilofer. I hope you're doing wonderful. Fantastic book. You can see some of the dog ears, and fantastic thick book that came out probably about 10 years ago, but still extremely relevant. What I love about the book is that it really talks about how being yourself builds the best audience. A really simple example of this is you see how I'm dressed with, like, I have my fairly nice blazer. I think it might be Brooks Brothers. Fairly nice blazer. I have my shirt, which is getting a little wrinkly now. There's my Bring Your Worth shirt. All these shirts and all this stuff is available at damebrown.net, as well as the mug. Shout out to Bring Your Worth. And I have a little bit of shave stubble, but not too much, but I did shave. I'm wearing glasses. You know, I got my two favorite brothers up here. I got John Coltrane, as well as, sorry, it's reverse in the mirror here, as well as my guy James Baldwin. And that conveys a certain energy. So if you identify with any of this, the homemade shirt, which I actually sell, drinking from a mug that was designed with two other designers, me wearing a nice blazer, but being comfortably in my home office and having, you know, a wonderful master of music and a wonderful master of words on the wall. If that connects with you, then you found home. You're among your people now. If it doesn't connect with you, Bring Your Worth TV might not be for you. Zero shots. Just might not be for you. That's what she talks about in the book. However, if I wasn't wearing glasses, because I'm nearsighted and I'm a nerd, so I'm wearing glasses, but if I had contacts instead, which isn't really my style, if I wore, you know, a three-piece suit with a tie and really nice pants, you can't see my pants, but really nice pants and, you know, boat shoes, we used to call them, but basically loafers and stuff like that. And I had, let's just say, other people on my wall, then I can't be mad when I don't find people that are like me because I wasn't representing who I am. This is Damon. When, you know, for my friends that are watching, you know, this is me, kind of where I dress, it's who I am. You know, folks that have coached with me. If you've been watching the Bring Your Worth show for the last 4.5 years, thank you, number one. Number two, you know, I've been pretty much the same. Couple office changes, you know, couple new pieces of art. Same energy, same Damon. That's what she talks about in the book. That's really the power of it. It's the power of holiness, as in, I'm going to show up as my full self, particularly if you're independent. I'm going to show up as my full self as much as possible. That allows other people, it's called signaling, to see me and be like, oh, yeah, I want to rock with Damon. Oh, Damon's a coach? I want to coach with him. Oh, Damon has a newsletter at joindamon.me and it's free? Sign me up. You ever see somebody or see a message out there, and it could have been on social media, where you see it and you're like, oh, I rock with this. Yeah, this is me. Yeah, let me sign up right away. Oh, they have a book? Let me get their book. I feel that way all the time. That's one of the reasons why I love coaching, because I want to help you cultivate that part and that confidence and the ability to show up as yourself so that people can feel that way about you. Because you felt that way about certain people where you're like, oh, yeah, whatever it is. Again, I'm a big music guy, see Coltrane on the wall. And it's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, they have a new album coming out? I'm on it. Pre order. Oh, they're going to be in Las Vegas? Concert. I don't go to that many concerts. But it's like, oh, yeah, I rock with them like that. This book talks about that. That's just one simple gem in this book. It breaks down so well. Nilüfer's book should be on your shelf. From a brass tack standpoint, let's give you some tools that'll help you on your way. The first tool, my favorite tool at the moment actually, is Beehive. And Beehive, let's close this up. Beehive is a newsletter platform. I like Beehive for two really big reasons. And I was on a long-standing um, newsletter platform, and then I discovered Beehive, and I was like, yeah, I don't need to do that anymore. Went a totally different direction. Migrate all my stuff over to Beehive. Shout out to Beehive. Number one, Beehive is great because the format is super simple, and that gives you a basic idea. And so when you write a newsletter, it's very similar to if you used to write web pages, old school, then you'll be super familiar with it. If you know WordPress, if you worked with what's called a CMS or a content management system, excuse me, it's a lot closer to that. With the bigger platforms I worked with in the past to manage my newsletter, it's felt very chaotic and overwhelming. It's just too much stuff. This one, I send out a newsletter again every Wednesday. You go to joindamon.me, join it for free. There's also archives of all the newsletters, particularly over the past year. That's all set up. I go in there. I write my newsletter usually on Monday or Tuesday of that week. I go and set it up. I just start typing. There's an image I want to put in there of the latest video, such as me promoting me having a live today. I just copy and paste. It's really simple and straightforward. Okay, that's number one. Number two, which is what I really like about it, especially if you know my work, you know where I'm going to go. It's really easy to create passive income with this. Getting sponsors or advertisers for newsletters can be really complicated. And frankly, the bigger newsletter companies, like Beehive just started like 2 years ago. So the classic ones, which respect to the founders of those, they never really made it easier to get brand deals or to get sponsorships for it. For Beehive, I set up my newsletter there. By the following week, they had two or three recommended sponsors for the newsletter. And the sponsors pay. If you know YouTube or other platforms, this might sound familiar to you. The sponsors pay based on price per click. So if someone clicks on the advertisement in your newsletter, each time someone clicks on it, you get a certain amount. Or it'll be price per open. I think they call it open. Price per opening. So if you have 1,000 people that open up your newsletter, they'll give you a rate that says for every 1,000 people that open the newsletter, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. It's set up, it's streamlined. All the money is handled by Beehive. They go and tally it usually by the following week, if not earlier. Then they tell you what they calculated, and then by month's end, all that's transferred into your wallet. That's it. So from not having much sponsorship at all, in the previous years, I've had a newsletter, and I've had a newsletter for unofficially probably 15 to 20 years. Officially for I'd say the last 10. After all the ups and downs with finding sponsors and brand deals, stuff like that, with the newsletter, again, I'd say within the first week, maybe second week newsletter, I was already getting money. And I was giving products and services and ideas that actually work with my audience, which is a key part of it. But to emphasize that and to remind you, notice I said my audience, not Beehive's audience, not YouTube's audience, not Twitter X audience, not anybody else's audience, my audience. I have access to everyone's email address, in some cases home address if they gave them to me, if they purchased, a book directly from me at DamonBrown.net or whatever. I know what newsletters are into and what they're not into. So if something were to happen to Beehive, which I wish them luck, I really like working with them, then it's not like I lose all my contacts. And that gives you a great example where with the previous, much larger, more corporate newsletter platform that I was using, I was able to download all the email addresses that I'd gotten over the years from the platform and then just transfer them over to Beehive. It took me maybe an afternoon. I think I read a couple tutorials on it, but it was really straightforward. That's the power of having a newsletter. You actually can contact the people that you built up over time. Imagine instead of having a newsletter with the previous company, I transferred over to Beehive about a year ago. Imagine if I was in this situation. I'm like, you know what? I don't rock with this corporate company anymore. I like y'all, but you're not for me. You guys are going in directions I don't want to go in. And it's like, oh, there's a new platform that I want to go over there. If this was the equivalent of a LinkedIn, the equivalent, particularly of a TikTok, the equivalent of particularly a Facebook or Instagram or a Snapchat, you're not taking it with you at all. So all those followers, all those likes, all that stuff, you're not taking anything with you. So you're going to have to build your base all over again. This is one of the reasons why having a newsletter is a really big part of it. That's why you have all these people having their different newsletters now, because a lot of people are waking up to this. Such an important part of the conversation. If you're going to be owning your relationship with your audience, a newsletter could be a really big part of it. I would highly recommend Beehive. You get a discount if you do it through me. I think it's a nice free trial and a discount on the AM subscription. Be sure and check it out. Tell them I sent you. Really, really good stuff. Another platform that I really appreciate is Calendly. I've been talking about their praises for years. And I'll show you the basic. There's not a whole lot on there, but I'll go and show you what's happening. Calendly works like this. It coordinates with your current calendar, and I have a few different calendars. I have my calendar, and then I have the family calendar. It's in the calendar for the boys and other members of the family. So everything I do, from coaching appointments, I just had a session earlier today. So from like coaching appointments to dates, to meetings, to conferences, to keynoting, all that needs to be jammed in there. And then I have a new coaching client, and I just talked to one recently, and they were like, and it's like, okay, well, let's set up a meeting. Fridays work for me. Okay. Now, if you have an independent business, you know how it gets where you go back and forth. It takes forever. And you're like, oh, well, how about Friday at 9? No. How about 9:30? Well, I don't know about 9:30, but how about we do Monday and it just goes on forever, particularly with email. It goes on forever. Calendly works as a really simple black box. Black boxes are those things that keep track of all the all the all the technology and decisions made in an airplane, and it's usually recorded when something happens, right? And there's like, well, let's look at the black box. Black box is also a technology term as far as there being a certain output. They call them functions, where you put something in, it does its magic, and it comes out. And you can rely on that black box to figure it out. You don't have to worry about what's going on with that. Calendly basically black boxes your calendar. So I can say, okay, my kid's got a Cub Scout meeting, and I have my live shows on Wednesdays, and this is happening. And Calendly would be like, okay, great. And what hours did you want to have available, for your coaching clients? Oh, let's do Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Okay, great. Do. Great. Set up the links, and then it'll automatically block out times that don't fit within, in my case, my schedule or my family schedule. and it's within the parameters of when I want to work. For instance, took pretty much all of New Year's Eve week off. So there's nothing available on my calendar. So when a coaching client says, oh, yeah, let's connect on Friday, I'm like, great, pick a time. I can send them the calendar link and they'll know what times are available. I don't have to get any more gray hair worrying about this, that, and the third, and there being a conflict of time. If they can't do it, or if they have a challenge, or if they're having some challenging a conflict, or they need to cancel something, then they're able to go and say, "Oh, okay, let's go ahead and reschedule." It's like great, they reschedule, same situation. They still got to organize. So it's a great way to do that. Big fan of Calendly. I've been using it for years, probably going on a decade, and it's been so good to streamline it. And especially, I got two little kids. They're 8 and 11. You can imagine, years ago when they were like 3 and 6 and stuff like that. Preschool and all. It's like, ooh, I need Calendly way more then than I did now. But with Calendly, if you're going to be doing more of the one-on-one conversations, if you're going to be owning this time with your audience, you need to have a schedule, have a plan. Just saying, I want to connect with my audience more. I've been there. That's not going to cut it. Not going to do it. Instead, you need to be like, oh, I'm going to connect with my audience more. I want to have more one-on-one time, or I want to have more group sessions. Okay, how's that going to look in your calendar? Calendly is a great step for that. It's super affordable too. Yeah, but the link is right there. You can go and check it out. It's not even an affiliate. Just check it out, see what's going on. No discount necessary for sure. One of my favorite master classes, How to Grow an Audience If You Have None. It takes about 3 or 4 of the best edit audience, best episodes, not audiences, episodes in regards to having an audience, and breaks it down. And yeah, I think y'all would appreciate it. It's actually one of the more popular episodes of that period of time back in the 300s, 325 over there. So I'm wondering, how are you building a relationship with your audience? How are you cultivating a relationship with your audience outside of the middlemen and middlewomen, middle organizations? How are you cultivating that? How are you going to do that in this upcoming year? Let me know in the comments. I'm super curious because, with TikTok going away, it's a good sign as ever to go ahead and make sure that you own that audience relationship. Excuse me. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. This is Bringing Worth TV, coming to you Wednesdays live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free, and you can check out my latest book, The Complete Bringing Worth Collection. That's 7 business books in here. I'm trying to do this for y'all, man. Woo. And the audiobook's also available at bringingworth.tv. You can go ahead and click to hear the unabridged version of it. Of course, you can get it at your favorite bookstores. When it comes to surviving the potential ban, likely ban of TikTok, it's a great time to audit your platforms. Why are you on the social media? Why are you on that platform that you got 10 followers on? Why are you rocking with this platform when you don't even like the head of the platform now? How much time is being consumed being on these platforms that you don't really rock with in the first place? A great way to audit your platform is to figure out who or what parts of your audience are actually there. Maybe none of them are there like that. What I did, particularly back in the day when social media was way more popular, it's popular now to diss social media. 15 years ago, especially when I was living in Silicon Valley, I might have been part of that reality distortion field that they talked about at the time. Steve Jobs, rest in peace, was really good at that. But I might have been part of that that filter bubble when it came to social media being everything. But it sure did seem like from '08 to, I'd say, 2020, 2012, 2013, 2014, social media could really do no wrong. People had their concerns, but I think social media started to fall apart probably around the Cambridge Analytica scandal in regards to the presidential election. I want to say 2016. That's when things really started to fall apart. There were some cracks in it before. I did a book with Ted, the same folks who did the conference, called Our Virtual Shadow, that talked about that. I want to say that book came out in 2012. Talked about some of the early versions of that. My whole point is that At that period of time, the basic thing was to be on every single social media platform possible. And the thing was, there weren't as many social media platforms. There was MySpace, going old school, MySpace, Friendster, um, quite a few blogging platforms like LiveJournal and stuff like that. Um, Facebook had just started. Twitter was just starting to catch fire. Again, back to the elections. That's when Twitter really started to take off. And I want to say the elections of, I want to say the elections of 2008, 2012, kind of like around the time in the U.S. when Obama was in office. There's very much a surge with Twitter and to a lesser extent with Facebook. So you could actually be on all the platforms. even Evan Spiegel, who's the head of Snapchat, he probably was in elementary school at that time. He was pretty young. Um, yeah, I don't think LinkedIn had started yet. Like we're talking way back, so it was possible to just be everywhere. TikTok obviously was still in China and probably didn't start yet. Now, I mean, I'm on Blue Sky right now. You can look me up at just uh, just look up Damon Brown on Blue Sky. That's like a Twitter competitor. There's like a million different places you can go right now. You can easily burn yourself out. And again, as I talked about at the top of the episode, for what? What are you burning yourself out for? In a lot of these cases, you're not able to take your audience with you. If you leave the platform, you're not going to be able to connect to that audience. And if you don't actually like the platform and or like the people that are running the platform, you're just giving them power by showing up on the platform. It's literally based on views and clicks, just like a lot of platforms that are around now that are beyond social media. So at this point, I would highly recommend that you audit which platforms you're on. What are the top three? Which ones should you be showing up at? Other ones, don't worry about it. There's a reason why I'm, streaming over to Twitter. It's not Twitter, Twitch, not Twitter, but to Twitch. A reason why a lot of y'all are connecting me with me on LinkedIn, and the reason why one of the homes of TV is YouTube. That was a conscious decision. There's a ton of other streaming platforms that I could have went to. These are the three for right now. That's a decision. I wasn't streaming on Twitch a few years ago. There's a reason for that. I also wasn't streaming on LinkedIn until about 2 years ago. There's a reason for that. All these are strategic decisions. You should look at where you put your energy and your time and where you build your audience as a strategic decision. Because if you don't, then when things happen, like the likely TikTok ban this Sunday, when these things happen, you're going to be a deer in headlights. It's not going to work out for you. So have that strategy now, work on that now. There's a good reminder that, particularly when it comes to technology, these things aren't stable. We should not take these things for granted. It gets into one of my favorite conversations, had it over at with Will Lucas over at shout out to Will, appreciate you, over at Afrotech years ago. I think it was when the pandemic had just hit. And we're having this conversation about idea first or skills first, as far as doing entrepreneurship. Should you go get a particular trade or particular da da da, or should you just go ahead and, excuse me, run with your idea and then get support da da da. But a key part of this conversation, which I've included the excerpt here, is the difference between owning your audience and renting your audience. And I compared it to being a homeowner versus being an apartment renter, which I've been both. Both are great. But if you're in an apartment, you don't have to worry about the overhead, right? With a house I had owned, we had issues with like the water heater a little while ago, and luckily we had homeowners insurance. But other than that, it was out of pocket. And if the homeowners insurance wasn't set up the way it was, we got lucky, then that would have been several $1,000s. But luckily, it was covered by insurance. Knock on wood. It's a beautiful thing. My whole point is that when you have an apartment, you don't have to worry about that. So it's very similar. Where if you're on Facebook and you're getting your audience from there, you're kind of like renting the apartment. You can move in right away. You might do a security deposit. You can move in right away. You don't have to worry about most of the utilities because they're usually covered nowadays. You don't have to worry about that. If something goes on with your heat or your water heater or your furnace or whatever you got going on, you can call maintenance and be like, hey, and then they're required by law to come help you, I think within 24 hours. It's not by law, within 24 hours. They're going to help you and they're going to fix it, da da da. But you can't paint the walls because they're not your walls. You can't blast your music. I'm a music guy. I have a record player right over there. You can't blast your John Coltrane at 3 in the morning because you can't sleep and you feel like hearing his soothing sounds. You can't do that because it's not your house. Most importantly, when you leave the apartment, you're not taking Jack with you except for what you came in with. That's the difference. Do you be a homeowner when it comes to your audience, where you can take your audience with you? You can even sell the home and actually make a profit or get some of that money back or whatever your situation is. You can pass on that home to the next generation. I got little kids. You can pass that on. Can't, but if you don't own the audience, if you don't own the property, you can't do that. I get into that way more articulately, but I get into that with the interview slash debate that I was having with Will at Afrotech. Love you, Will. I appreciate you. Hope you're doing wonderful. But it was a great conversation, and it feels so apropos. Apropos, my favorite word of the day. So apropos for today's climate, particularly as TikTok looks like it's going to sunset. So, have you audited your platforms? Are you kind of like, I'm going to be on every single platform possible? Is that your power move? Hey, I'm not mad at you. Just not my strategy, but I'd love to hear it in the comments. Or are you dedicated to one particular platform? And with what's going on with TikTok right now, is that making you question how dedicated you are in terms of to a particular platform? And maybe I'm wrong. Are there ways that you've been on social media, left a platform, and been able to keep your audience? I'd love to hear it in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear more about that. I am Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV, coming to you Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time, coming to you live. You can subscribe for free, particularly here at Bring Your Worth.tv. My latest book, as I lose my voice, definitely time to wrap up the show. I think I need some more tea. Man, the winters out here in Vegas are killing me. Super dry. The complete Bring Your Worth collection out now. You can listen to it for free right now at bringyourworth.tv. Let me know what's happening. Are you auditing the channels that are platforms that you're on? Uh, what's kind of going through your mind as far as with this process? I'd love to hear more about that. And a good video to go to after this will be idea first or skills first. I'll be sure and put a link up. Until next time, remember you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.